Discussion mapping is pretty much writing all the students' names on a piece of paper in the way that they're set up in the room, and then drawing lines to mark the flow of the discussion. So if this side of the room starts and it's a particular student, I just literally draw a line going around. And my room is set up kind of in a U shape. Some teachers might set it up in a circle because you can also see it in a circle. And then I place that map, that flow of discussion with student names underneath the dot cam. And so students are like, I talked and I talked and I talked, and they can kind of see and track how many times they spoke, which way the lines are going. Sometimes I'll write, like, if something is just wow, I just try and write down a little bit of what they said, or I'll write down E for evidence, just so that students are aware that, like, I'm tracking how often we are using evidence. Additionally, I kind of made a rubric to go along with the discussion map so that students were able to reflect with a grade. Because some students are just like, I need a grade. Is this for a grade? And so it's not really a hard grade. It's a grade for them to give themselves and give their class and kind of talk through, again, reflect on that grade and how we can collectively improve that. Your question today is based on all that we've done so far. I've kind of made sure that there was a definition for you guys. So the question we're focusing on, and you can take it wherever you want to take it, is it innately feminist when women break the rules? How does society respond? What does this tell us? And why does it matter? So I want you to take 3 minutes to respond to this question so you have some place to speak from when we get into our 8 to 10 minute discussion. And I'll be mapping the discussion the same way I've mapped it before. So we have something to compare it to and something to reflect on. Before we begin the discussion, right, I want us to be mindful of the levels. Last time you guys did a discussion was on January 31st. January 31st map. Your discussion map looked like this, right? This is January 31st discussion map. A lot of us were missing, but this is how it looked. So now we have a system for actually providing that rating that we give at the end. 95% or more of the people in this room need to participate for a 5-star, right? 80% for 4, accountable talk, 60% text and live evidence. For level 3, the discussion is flowing. 60% of the class is speaking. Some students have been invited. But really the difference is that you guys are agreeing or disagreeing, not really requiring deeper thinking, but you're still engaged. And so to get the 4 and 5, because that's where we were with the 3, we were talking, we were completely engaged, but we weren't taking it the next step. So that's where the 4 and 5 goes. I know it won't be a 2, but the 2 means that there are a lot of instances of quiet. You're building on each other, but you're not really creating new ideas. So if we're trying to get to 4 or 5, think about what that would sound like, what that means. And this is your question. Our texts, right? Antigone, this quote, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And I'm going to time you. I'm going to start with 8. If it gets good, I'll add. But to fill in this 8, that's what we're doing, right? And I'm going to be mapping it again. Is it innately feminist when women break the rules? Time is starting now.
It's not innately feminist when women break the rules. However, there's a lot of different contingencies with that whole entire concept where it's almost a split down the middle type of thing where when a woman does something that's not really predominantly feminine or one thing or another or doesn't fit a specific social standard, that sort of rule breaking can be described as feminist. But then on the other side of the coin, it's almost as if these days a woman can do anything that sort of qualifies her as a human being, a standard that will be set for anybody, and somebody will describe them as feminist, even though they're just standing by their own ideals. And there's nothing wrong with that. Even that can be feminist, but it's not a term that can be used too loosely because then you sort of lose the meaning of the word.
I feel like feminism, that isn't insanely feminism because it's just fighting, it's just like women having the same human rights as other people.
So then, like, the question can be asked, what constitutes something as unfeminist? Is it absolutely anything that you can do that sort of fits a standard, or is it denying that part of your femininity? Is it denying the feminist movement? And is that seen in how Antigone behaves? And how Girl behaves in the other article that we read.
Yeah, asking if the Girl and Antigone can be considered as a feminist action. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, basically, yeah.
I don't really think Antigone's actions were feminist. I feel like it was just more of her caring about people, and caring isn't inherently feminist. It's more that she believed that he deserved. I can't remember how to pronounce his name. That he deserved a proper burial, and then she went out and did that. It wasn't her being feminist. It was her knowing what she wanted to do and doing it. It wasn't standing up for female rights.
And why he referring to his brother, to her brother? Okay.
What's it called? Like, it shouldn't be seen as feminist, but like we had a story that like talks about it. Like the king, was it the king? Like
I think so. Yeah.
yeah,
The king.
he was seen as feminist because he was saying, oh, like which men did this or whatever, and then he was shocked to see it be a woman that break the law and stuff like that.
I would like to agree with Jamori because, like, at first, yeah, the king, he was assuming he kept asking which man did this. He didn't assume it could be a woman. So when Antigone, she, like, stood up because it's her brother, that's just who she is. So she wanted to express, like, you know, how, like, her brother needed a proper burial, like, you know, because that's just who she is, like Emily said.
I think that, like, a woman, if a woman breaks a rule, it could go either way, but it's not technically, like, feminist because they could, or she could be, like, standing up for someone else. And just going back to what Alex was saying, well, I wasn't here yesterday, so I missed some parts, but he's saying that, like, she stood up for her brother. So she broke the rule, but she technically didn't really, it was like she's standing up for someone else.
I agree with you. I don't think that what she did was exactly feminist, but breaking different types of rules could be seen as feminist because, like, if you break rules like that, like, instead of acting like what everybody thinks a woman should act like, or like a respectful woman, right, and breaking those rules and being different and acting like an equal, I feel like that could be seen as feminism. Like, if you're breaking the rules that society has made for women. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. You are going to take a look at this map, right, and think about the other maps that we have done and what they look like, and answer the questions that are going around. So what do you notice about the map? What is working or went well in terms of the conversation? What isn't working or needs to change? What does this tell us about how we talk and listen? And what is your role in discussion today? Has your role changed? How has it changed? And then ultimately, you know that you're going to cover your rating so that nobody's upset. Cover your rating so that we can discuss what we got as a class overall for today's discussion. So take like the next 2 minutes, 3 minutes to answer the questions. Whether you participated or not, you are a participant, right? Because you're here.
When we first started the strategy, I had never really done something like it before in the same way that we were doing it. So it was really difficult for me to find the energy or just the urge to participate, to involve myself in the discussions. And especially when people did talk, it seemed like what I had to say wouldn't really work with what they were saying. And I was very in my head about it, and I really wanted what I said to relate to somebody else's. And I think it was really, really hard for me to break out of that, almost like this idea that if it didn't like work with somebody else's or please somebody else's, then it wouldn't take and people wouldn't care about it, or it wouldn't work out, or I just, I just didn't want to sound stupid, honestly. And like as time went on, it got easier to break out of that and not be afraid to be like polarizing for what I said, to sort of go against what somebody else said. And because in the end, both of us would grow from that regardless of what was said. And it was really, really important for me to see that as the year went on. When I write, I use the discussion strategy like on a consistent basis. And if I'm writing a specific idea down and I'm thinking, I automatically ask myself, because this is something that my classmates and I ask each other all the time, does this make sense? We almost ask each other like, so what? When we're writing down an idea, it's so what? Why should I care about this? Why does this matter? If this is happening, why did it happen? What did it affect? And when I'm doing that in my mind, when I write something down, I can say, hold on, this might be a little too much of like a flat thing. There's more like beneath this thing. And in my mind, I'm going, okay, so what happened after it? What did this thing affect? And I write that. I ask myself, but then what about this thing that happened at the same time? And I write that out. And it's almost like my own internal planning page. And then my writing just towards the end of that whole process that happens like faster and faster the more that you're doing it, and you see what you've written already. And if you had just left it without that strategy, without doing that sort of discussion with yourself, that your writing wouldn't be as strong or relevant or just like as lasting as it is now.
For the most part, I think just that sharing of ideas has really worked. I've been really proud to see how unafraid they've been to just be themselves versus like how they come in the beginning of the school year, which is like, we are not gonna be in your discussion today because we don't talk. And now they're like, let us talk, we want to talk. And it's structured talk. And so I really appreciate that.